You are going to be working around fuel here. Let's start with some basic safety precautions. Always work in a well-ventilated area, free of any source of ignition, like hot water heaters or incandescent shop lights. As always, when you're working on your car, you should be wearing safety glasses, but now is a good time to get some chemically resistant gloves as well. Make sure the car is stone cold. Most importantly, have a properly rated and fully charged fire extinguisher handy, ready, and know how to use it. You will need to remove the battery and tray first. With the trunk open, the battery is located under the panel in the center of the trunk towards the windshield. Pull up on the cutout handles, red arrows, and remove the panel. You will need to disconnect the ground on the battery before you do any further work. Use a 10mm socket to loosen the nut holding the ground on the negative cable and remove the cable from the battery, red arrow. Lift up and tuck the ground cable away on the side of the battery. You want to make sure it cannot come in contact with the negative post, red arrow. Coming in contact with the ground while working can increase the risk of an electrical shock. When you are done with disconnecting the ground and moving it away safely, you may loosen the positive end of the battery. Use a 10mm socket to loosen the nut holding the positive end cable, and then remove the cable from the battery. There is an emergency tire air pump kit located in the front of the battery. We will need to remove the kit and the housing to get access to the battery. To open the kit housing, lift up on the tabs on the side of the lid indicated by the red arrow. Once open, gently remove and set aside the air pump kit and the lid. To remove the rest of the kit housing, use a T20 Torx and remove the 2 screws on the sides of the housing indicated by the red arrows. With the air pump kit fully removed, locate the battery crossbar. There are 2 nuts that need to be removed, one in front of the battery, red arrow, and one under the cowl, blue arrow. Use a 13mm socket to carefully remove both of the nuts. You may need an extension to access the one under the cowl. Once both nuts are removed, lift up and remove the battery crossbar. There is an additional battery brace located on the side of the base, red arrow. Use a 13mm socket to remove the screw holding the brace in place. After this, the battery is ready to be removed. Move aside the loosened positive end, red arrow, and use the battery handle to lift the battery up and out. You may need additional help lifting the battery out. It is very heavy. Check the base of the battery tray for any debris or fluid and clean out before continuing with removal. Use a 13mm socket and remove the 4 screws holding the tray in place. Red arrows, 3 shown. With the fuel tank now accessible, clean out any debris or fluid on or around the fuel flange. You do not want any debris getting into the tank or any of the lines connected to the tank. In order to access the flange, you can either remove the battery console holder, red arrow, or the chassis brace, blue arrows, by unfastening the 2 13mm screws from the console holder or the 4 15mm screws, 2 on each ends of the chassis brace. Disconnect the vacuum line from the brake booster by squeezing in on the tabs, red arrow, and pulling the line straight up and off. Disconnect the fuel lines by squeezing in on the tabs, red arrows, and pulling the line straight up and off. Be prepared to catch any fuel that might spill out. Release the electrical connections on the top of the unit, red arrows, by gently twisting with a flathead screwdriver on the release tabs and then remove them. Porsche has redesigned the flange, and it makes a very special and expensive tool for removing the sealing ring cap on the top of the sender. Attach the tool to a breaker bar and rotate anti-clockwise to release the locking ring. This image showcases just how much force it takes to loosen the locking lugs from the locking ring. We used a breaker bar with a 3-foot pipe on the end, and when it let go, it sounded like a gunshot going off. Do not attempt to remove this ring without using the special tool. Lift the sender up and disconnect the liquid-safe electrical connections, red arrow, on the underside. Disconnect the fuel line, red arrow, from the underside by squeezing in the tabs and pulling the line off. You can now lift the level sender up and out. With the level sender removed, you can see the fuel pump, red arrow, attached to the bottom of the fuel tank. Pay close attention to the position of the installed fuel pump and the lines. Make sure to wear chemically resistant gloves if you do not have the tank drained. Turn the fuel pump anti-clockwise and guide it carefully out of the tank along with the attached fuel line. Installation is the reverse of removal. Expect the vehicle to run rough for a few seconds as air is purged from the system. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and check out another video in this series.